Morning, everybody. Thank you for joining us today on the Digital Competencies Masterclass, the last Masterclass of the Made Futures exhibition. Just going to wait another minute to give everybody the opportunity to join us today. But again, we've got some fantastic experts on today to talk about digital competencies. So hopefully you enjoy the event. Before we get started, I'm going to show you guys a little video as well, just to show you a bit more about the Made Futures exhibition and how you can look around stands. Great, so we've hit 11:16. Like I said, thank you for joining us today on the Digital Competencies Masterclass, the fourth and final Masterclass of the Made Futures virtual exhibition. So from the 22nd to the 26th of March, we've been hosting two events a day, a masterclass and a Meet Britain's Makers virtual networking event. And you can watch these on our YouTube channel back. So if you've missed the events today or any this week, you can watch them back on our YouTube channel. So make sure you head over to there if you would like to watch them back, as if you attend two of these events or watch the events back, you will receive an employability certificate. So before we get started and I introduce our panelists here today, I'd just like to share with you a short video. And this is essentially how you will move around the exhibition and look at stands at the exhibition. And it's important that after this event today, you head over to the Made in Group stand, CBE Plus's stand and Southall's stand to interact further with the panelists here today, or ask any further questions that might not get answered in today's session. So if you do have any problems with logging into the virtual exhibition, then please email events@madeingroup.com. So that's events@madeingroup.com. So I'm going to share my screen with you now. Here we go.
Hi, I'm Charles Addison, Managing Director of Made in the Midlands and Made in Yorkshire. And thanks very much for registering and attending the Made Futures Virtual Careers Week. The session you're on at the moment will be one of the breakout events in the regions where you'll get a chance to listen into some of the employers in your area who are taking people on, understand why a career in manufacturing engineering is a great one, and the opportunity to sit in breakout rooms and work with them afterwards. There's one event each day like this, so I encourage you to register for the ones that are relevant to your geography. But definitely check out the wider elements of the Made Futures Careers Week, because the actual virtual exhibition hall is the key part of this in terms of being able to contact and speak with the other employers. You'll do so by visiting madefutures.com and clicking the login button in the bottom hand of the corner where you put in the email address and password that we've sent you. Which will give you access to the virtual careers hall itself and the lobby area. Click visit the Expo, and that opens up the live exhibition hall. So quickly navigating around, the skills hall is going to give you some exhibition standards from the local skills providers in your area through apprenticeships to colleges and universities. The Made Futures book is a downloadable 120-page book as a prospectus of all the firms who are engaged in this event. Feel free to contact and engage with my colleagues on the Made help desk in terms of the live chat, and jobs board takes you back to where we've just come from, the Made Futures jobs board. The careers hall is really the key takeaway part of this exhibition. I encourage you to go and visit the stands after this call, especially the ones who are on your panel, because this is where they will direct you to. So you can search by sector, by accreditation, by what a company buys and sells, and you can scroll through employers accordingly. My advice is to click on as many as you can and interact with them, because all of these businesses are hiring at the moment. So we can load up the exhibition standards as follows. We can interact and understand what the company does and watch the personal greeting of the managing director and understand more about the business. We can download maybe a brochure and some stuff right here about looking for application engineers to join the team. So you actually have job descriptions. And then to engage with the person on the stand, simply click the live chat and you can say something like, "Hi, Joanna, I am interested in a career with your business." Joanna will then get this through as a live notification and can chat with you real time, or if she's on an additional chat, she'll get a notification of the message. She has your contact information. Crucially, visit as many stands as you can, because each of the exhibitors will get a report of the job seekers who have attended them. And I've seen most of them have been emailing out to people asking for further information and contacting job seekers themselves. So it's an excellent way to progress through. We'll be providing a certificate signed by Lord Whitby of your participation. So I'd encourage you to achieve one of the deliverables on this, which is visiting the different exhibition stands themselves. And also each day there is a special competition where we are hiding a golden banner on one of the exhibition stands in the hall, and it's your job to kind of report to us through social media where the golden banner is on that particular day, and to contact us. As I said, all of these firms are hiring, and the key people for each business are available in the live chat forum. So please make sure you make use of your time this week. When you're going to go through to the fringe events, social events with the panelists, also make sure your video and audio is on, because at the end of the day, this is an opportunity for you to speak and interact with company owners. And it's a lot harder to do that if they can't see who you are, where you are. So use your week productively, be as visible as you can, and make the most of this opportunity to speak to employers. Thank you very much for supporting, and thank you very much for our panelists for speaking at this exhibition as well.
Okay, so our director, Charles Addison, mentioned there that this is a networking event. However, our networking events take place at 2:30 all this week, except for tomorrow. We also have another one at 11:15, as we don't have masterclasses tomorrow. So as he mentioned, make sure you're attending 2 of these, at least to receive your employability certificate. However, you can watch the events back if you have missed previous ones and would like to have attended those, and fill in the questionnaire which is on the video description in order to receive that employability certificate. In addition to that, Charles also mentioned the golden banner competition, so make sure you're looking around stands and trying to find that golden banner, as you will win a bottle of wine, a non-alcoholic version if you would prefer that, or a Moleskine smart book. So great opportunity for you to win something, as long as you find that golden banner, you post it on our socials, and use hashtags, #MadeFutures and #1KJobsChallenge. So I won't keep you guys any longer, we'll get straight into it. So today we have some fantastic speakers who will offer their expert advice on digital competencies. Eliza, Katie and Joe will be aiming to offer some knowledge around the different skills, attributes and experiences needed both to get your foot in the door of the manufacturing industry and also to thrive once you're in it. So like I said, we have Eliza Bernecka at the head of marketing at South Halls, Katie Andrews, marketing and communications representative from CBE Plus, and our very own, the Made in Group's Joe Maiko, our user experience executive. So first of all, we're going to hear from Eliza. So Eliza, do you want to just introduce yourself and tell us a bit more about you?
Hi everyone. So my name is Eliza Bonecka and I'm the head of marketing at South Halls since October 2017. So it's been 3.5 years. My education started with public relation and business. Then I moved into marketing communication, and I've been working with clients all over the world. In Europe, I worked as well in the US, and dealing with compliance and obviously the time nowadays is quite challenging for all the businesses. So it was a main goal for our business to make sure that people are going to go back home safely, because with coronavirus, you never know. You may feel, just, sniffles and not feel very well, or you may get properly ill. So as a business dealing with health and safety, we try to make sure we're giving that knowledge to people. And we see, the return of, lovely messages from people saying that we help them go through it. So we know how to do it, how to support people in those tough times, and it was a lovely experience. So hopefully some of my expertise is going to help you out as well to see how to tackle when you not necessarily are able to see people face to face. And obviously LinkedIn is the first gate, is your trailer to the movie that is called Your Next Job. So hopefully you're going to find my tips useful.
Great. So see that, right?
Yeah, I'm just requesting access.
There we go. Perfect.
Okay. Okay, so with LinkedIn, obviously the idea is to get the job. So let's discuss what can you do to, improve your chances. Oh, it doesn't click further. Okay, now it is. So, everything I mentioned, head of marketing for quite a while, which is obviously the title of marketing director as well. It just sounds a little bit more fancy nowadays. With my accent, obviously I don't want to mislead you. I was raised in Poland, used to live in California, and then moved to United Kingdom. After Seattle, I'm in a Cotswolds. I used to work in the agency and in a house. In a house is obviously any type of business, my own department, versus in an agency, I would deal with multiple clients. Some of them were based abroad, so obviously was traveling and adapting the marketing to their not only sector, but also country. I'm specializing in inbound marketing as well, which is a little bit of psychology, basically, seeing how people interact with things you have to tell them. As sometimes job that is a charity, so basically you're giving away a lot of information, you making sure people trust you, you make sure that people know what you're talking about, and then at some point when they need help, they will come back to you. So that's how I managed to transform Southholls as well. Let's kick in now. It's slowly showing. So first question, do you believe that perfect profile on LinkedIn exists? Well, as you said that question, what in your mind, would it be? But I'm just telling you, no, it doesn't. There is no chance to have a perfect profile, but there is a chance to have a profile that tells future employer enough about you to, get that interview, this, initial contact. And you don't need to be super fluent on either social media or, in anything that is virtual. You just need to do 5 things that are going to help you out to land that job. Okay, so the foolproof tips. First of all, set up the profile. You wouldn't believe how many people would never have that profile. And it's obviously quite silly, especially that this is the main source for recruiters nowadays. And, I know myself for the last few years, or whenever I'm hiring people or working with recruiters to get them on board, the way it works, they search your name. So obviously with social media, they're gonna show on the top. So in the past, you were able to manipulate that a little bit, but nowadays, especially recruiters, and because of the cookies in their browser, when they search the name of the person, LinkedIn is going to pop up first. And, as you see here on data, 95% of recruiters use LinkedIn basically daily. I am one of my first jobs in the marketing department was actually in a recruitment agency. They all have quite higher level subscriptions, so they're able to basically see everything about you. So you have to make sure that you have that LinkedIn profile, and you wouldn't believe how many people don't have it still. And what also happens is when you're getting a new job, then obviously you can promote that fact, you can interact with new people, people that usually hire you, they send you nice messages being like, thank you, for accepting the role, welcome on board. And that allows you to create that conversation and relationship with people. Nowadays, let's go to the next one. Say cheese, of course, the pictures. So if it comes to that, you have to make sure it's as professional as possible, and you must have a picture. Do not put anything, like pictures with your friends, family, especially with alcohol. You wouldn't believe how often that happens as well. Some pictures that are quite pixelated, they being, cropped from some other image with family, for example. No, you need to have a plain picture. And I know some people are, think that selfie would be okay, but there is a way to take a selfie that would look fairly professional. So obviously, if you just, pointing camera at yourself and you're doing duck face, that's not gonna work. Fairly plain backgrounds or white one, not pictures from the distance. No one need to see your body. Anything from, waist up is perfect, and you must smile. You must look approachable. Even if, you are a grumpy cat, we get it, but when you put your picture out there, look positive, look like you want to connect with people. It's very important. And people, you know, sometimes think, oh, because my job is very serious, I have to look that way. No, you don't. You have to look like somebody who is easy to be approached. So that's really important. Make sure that you have that picture. There are a lot of programs online that would allow you to actually, you know, remove the background if you think something is not okay, polish the picture a little bit. You don't need to know Photoshop. Just Google those you know, softwares or programs, and you're gonna be able to do this online. What is next? A short story about you. What happens with your profile? Obviously, you're trying to fill that in, and you have to make sure it's up to date. LinkedIn grows. I remember, you know, 10 years ago, it was very different versus what is now. You can add many, many more things to it. What is really important is to have that killer headline. So when you have the descriptions about you, you know, in my job, it says head of marketing. I can also mention that I'm a partner in different business. When it's about you, you can say, you know, hardworking, let's say marketer, looking for a job in manufacturing. So, you know, you can be very specific, you know, what you're looking for. I mean, it's very visible in a search. Then you come to about, you know, there are a few sweet sentences that you can put together, professional one, but basically introduce yourself to people. So you can mention that you're, you know, interested in a job in a specific industry and explain why is that. And you can add your email address or telephone number. So recruiters or employers or anybody who would go through your profile and see that you could be fairly good. It's jumping. I don't know, when slide went off. Okay, yeah. So that's really important. If it comes to experience, make sure it's up to date. Make sure that you use capital letters. Make sure that there are no spelling mistakes in it. Mention your key responsibilities. Some people use those sections like a CV basically. So they put increased percentages about that. Unless they, you know, huge numbers that make a big difference, don't do that. It's more about what you were doing in a previous job. What were your responsibilities? What, you know, challenges you had to overcome in order to be successful. And then if it comes to percentages, numbers and specific, or, you know, return on investment, try to put that in your CV because, you know, it's a little bit more in detail that way. Never lie about your experience. Happens quite often. It's very easy to check, and basically any recruiter or, you know, employer HR, they would go after you if you lie, because, you know, it seems unfair to people that were working really hard for their careers. Plus it's going to prove the point that you actually don't know certain things. And I've got a manager, a lady was fired after a few weeks because we find out she had no idea how to use software that was a main core part of our strategies. Don't do that. Be very specific, be honest about that. A lot of employers understand, especially when you're very young or you're changing the industry, that you're learning, you'll get there, but be honest what you put in there. If it comes to education, don't go all the way to kindergarten. No one cares, you know, high school or above. Obviously in England is wherever this is sixth form or any other schools. Don't try to make up your education background. It is true, you get the paper, no one ever asks you what grade you've got. Even we were suffering for a few years at university to get it, no one cares. But you need to be honest, you need to put that there. And skills, you know, if you just can, I don't know, cook rice in 88 seconds instead of 90, no one cares about that. But if there is something specific about you, you know, whatever you had, like event experience or managing, volunteering, or certain things, or actually you are very good with certain, you know, softwares or systems, and you can do something, then please put that in. That will help you out. It shows that you have other interests, and, you know, you can bring a lot to your role. Now the next one. Okay, let's click next one. Now let others talk about you. So if we go to the next slide, explanation is easy. You can get recommendations. Don't try to fake them just because those are your buddies. It's quite funny, and you can be colleagues with people, but it's really worth to do, especially every time you leave the job, to have recommendations from colleagues, bosses, managers, stakeholders, HR maybe. If you just left university, then ask your professors or teachers. I have those as well. I have recommendations from when I was in States and I worked with kids while I was studying, because that shows you commitment, working hard to pay, my college fees, and also being responsible. And then, at the university with mentors, I was involved in some business groups, for example, and then goes farther to my clients from different countries, or colleagues I was working with. All those informations that people put in, the way people talk about you is very important. And the reason why is because when you have conversation one-to-one, obviously you're going to try to sell yourself the best possible way, but when other people are going to talk about you in the same way, it helps out a little bit to show who you are as a person and as a professional. Don't ask your mom or somebody from your family with the same surname. It's quite clear. Some people do fake accounts. Do not do that, because it's also quite easy to see through it, and creating fake recommendations, it's just tacky. It can come and bite you in a backside at some point. Don't ever do it. It's very easy to screenshot nowadays. So even if you think you're going to remove it, eventually you're going to learn your lesson. No, people can screenshot. And other thing is, if somebody else asks you for a recommendation, write them as well, because on your profile it will show you who.
You just have 1 more minute for the presentation, so we can move on to the other panelists.
Sure.
Thanks.
And we're just gonna click. I think there's some delays with this. Can we go to the next one, please? Okay, so as I said, is your movie trailer. Put everything that is important and be truthful, represent best yourself. Be honest, you don't have many jobs, not much experience, be honest about that, but say what are your interests, what you're doing to improve your chances for the job. Don't put anything that is not necessarily related to your job. In a path, if you were flipping burgers, but suddenly you want to, work in manufacturing, you can put this in your skills and, experience that you've got through it and skills, but it's not necessary to be fitting in your experience. Try to avoid some statistic in your profile, as I said. Make sure that the image that you can put in the background also reflects your hobbies, personality, showing that you have life outside of work. Make sure that on other social channels is really important. You don't put anything silly, any pictures that can compromise you. It's very easy to screenshot and use this against you. And, any comments that you do on social media can also have negative impact, because 15 years ago you said something nasty about other person on the internet. It can be screenshot and shown to your employer, and especially now that there's a big value, and it's very important that that when you join the business you have to act accordingly to their social media policy. So with that, you need to behave online as well. So if there are any questions, then of course I would be happy to respond to those. Let's see. Jasmine, do you want me to answer them later?
For everybody watching here today, we'll have a 10-minute session at the end for any questions. However, our panelists here, whilst others are presenting, can answer your questions, just so we can get around all of you, as we do usually have a lot of questions, which is great because you're all engaged. Thank you for that, Elias. There's some great insight there into how to build a LinkedIn profile. So thank you so much for that. So now I'd like to introduce Katie from CBE+. So Katie's made a big impact at the company she's worked at for the past, is it a couple of years, Katie? Sorry, you're on mute.
Sorry, for the last year and a half, yeah.
Yeah. So Katie's made a massive impact on the social media side for CBE+. So she will also be holding a short presentation today. So Katie, would you like to tell us a bit more about you?
Yeah, I'm Katie. and I'm marketing executive at CBE Plus. So of it last year, I've been working to improve the social media for the company and as following and boosters brand awareness. So I'm going to talk a bit today about how you can improve your business's social media and some tips on how to increase your following. So I'll just share my presentation.
So yes, so Katie's going to give you guys some advice on how to build a company social following, as she mentioned, some tips and tricks on building a company profile, and etc. Great.
One second, sorry. Oh. Sorry, the presentation just closed itself down.
Would you prefer if we moved on to Joe, Katie, and we come back to you, or are you getting there?
It should come up now. Sorry, PowerPoint just shut itself down.
Perfect. We can see that. Great.
Can you see this now? Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. So it's called Stepping Stones to Strengthening Your Business Profile. So I'll tell you a little bit about me. So I started my apprenticeship in 2017, so I'm not long in the actual manufacturing industry. But I started in sales and marketing with Liberty Steel, where I learnt marketing on the job. And then in 2019, I transferred my apprenticeship to CBE Plus, where I went more into marketing and communication side of things. Last year, I completed my apprenticeship and become marketing executive for CBE Plus Group. So CBE Plus, just to give you a little bit of background, it was actually made of 4 businesses. So it was BG, Nitec, Pentag and Spire. But we've combined all these under one umbrella, which is CBE Plus. So we've had to really launch a new brand into market and get a lot of recognition for the new name, because obviously 3 years ago, no one really knew who CBE Plus were. So what's happened at CBE Plus so far? So when I started in October 2019, we had 5 followers on his LinkedIn page, which wasn't very many at all. And we had 4 actual pages. So where are we now? We've got nearly 1,000 followers, which is a big increase over a year and a half. And we've got one platform, so we push everything through the same platform. So you can see all the services in one place, and it reinforces the message of our business. So what content works? So these are tips that you could use in your business to engage more people. So focus on service campaigns and product campaigns. So showing what your capabilities are through pictures and videos is a really good idea. So how can you do this? What do I do to do this? I walk around shop floor and attend production meetings, find out what's actually going on site. In manufacturing, there might be lots of different stuff happening in factory, but you need to find out the best things that are actually going on at that time, and then go and get your hands dirty, go onto the shop floor, take pictures, take videos, and get to know people on the shop floor. Once you get to know people, they'll start coming to you and telling you, oh, something really cool's coming through, and they'll start feeding back into you once you build them relationships. Meet the teams. So a big campaign for us has been meet the teams. So when we've got lots of different departments in company, and showing personalities and skills within business is really important, and people connect to people and relate to people. and these have been really successful. Like, you can see this post here has got 54 likes. That's because Jonathan in picture might have had a lot of connections before, so that's bringing new people to like our page as well. When you tag someone in it, all the connections he's got will see your page and your business. So how would you do this? Interview people, get to know them, and turn it into content. And then if you've got any internal comms as well, you can use this internally to get to share stuff with people to get to know each other. Another thing to talk about is corporate social responsibility. It gives your business a feel-good factor. So everyone likes to see businesses doing things that are good for the community, good for charity. So how can you do this? Sign your business up to a charity event or a STEM program. And as this progresses, it'll naturally generate content for you to share and lots of stuff for you to talk about. And people will want to connect and want to get involved. So a project that I've put at the bottom is Welcome to the Sky Project Safeguard. So if you have a look at that, there's some good opportunities to get involved there. And once you get involved, there's lots of stuff to talk about on social media through that. Collaborations. So our motto at CBE Plus is together we do more. So if you're working with a customer or a supplier and you've got a positive relationship, ask them if you can talk about them on your social media. So how can you do this? Ask your colleagues where something's gone really right, and then go to the customer or the supplier, talk to them, and write a story about it, turn it into a video and get some pictures and post it everywhere on your social media and on your website. Use your memberships and your networks. So we're members of Made in Yorkshire, and this has been a really good campaign for our social media. It's given us loads of content to talk about and got us connected to lots of different people. So take a look at what memberships you've got and utilise them. They'll give you a lot of content, or you can create it yourself, and there's lots of things that you can talk about, different things that's going on with each one of them through here. So as you can see, we're members of a lot of different ones, and it's given us a lot of content, and each one of them networks will have a lot of people connected to them that will see your content. Next, so get your staff involved, because they are your biggest strength. In manufacturing, it's an industry that's quite old-fashioned, and it's hard to get people on board sometimes with LinkedIn and getting people involved that might traditionally not have been into it so much. But I found if you create a pack to get to them, sit down and talk to them about it, they will get on board, and they've got their own network. So if someone new comes into your business, they'll bring maybe up to 1,000 new people that they're connected to. They'll start seeing your content, and you never know, might end up seeing it. You might get a new customer through that. So be relevant. What's going on in the wider world? One of my favourite websites to look on is daysoftheyear.com, where you can see what week it is or what month it is. Some examples of this is Apprenticeship Week, Women in Engineering, World Engineering, or even Christmas Jumper Day. And just hashtagging these will get thousands of people to see your post because it's trending. So when something like that comes up, make a little picture about it and make sure you're getting it on your social media platforms. So top tips, make stuff visual. People in businesses tend not to have too much time on their hands, so seeing a quick video or a picture is much more impactful than writing 5 paragraphs about something, and you can usually convey the same message. Plan your content in advance. So if you look at everything that's coming up and you sit down and you write it in advance, you've got a constant stream. If you don't post something for a few days or a few weeks, people tend to forget about you. But if you're there every day, you'll be at the back of the minds. Post ad hoc. Sometimes in life. There's just moments you want to capture and share. So something might happen at work where something's gone really well, or someone might win an award, or you might pass an audit or something like that, and you want to take a picture of it and post it when it isn't, it'll get a lot of attention because everyone in business will be buzzing about it as well. Another tip is post stories to your website and link it to your social media, because this will increase your social media following and engagement, but it'll also bring more traffic to your website.
Hi Katie, sorry to interrupt, just let you know you've got a minute left before we all right.
Find other people like you. So I feel that if you find other people that do marketing, if there's not other people in your business that do it, if you find other people that work in similar positions to you, it's good to always network and share tips and tricks, because you might find out some tips that you've not heard before. And another tip is tag people who are relevant, because the more people you tag, the more people that are going to see your post. So what platforms? For manufacturing, definitely LinkedIn is the biggest platform. And if you've not got much time to spend on social media, that's where I'd put all your efforts, because it's going to bring you more back. But also Facebook's good to share the stuff that you're sharing on LinkedIn with your employees. Twitter's good. YouTube supports your website, and Instagram. We're just about to launch our Instagram in coming weeks, but that's a really good platform to reach like a younger generation. And last slide now, reporting is important, because it's important to see where you've come from, where you're going, what's worked, what's not worked, so you can continuously improve. It might not be a favourite part, because you might just be so interested in creating content, but seeing what you've done is really important. So that's it. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Katie. Some great insight there, and especially for those who are looking to work in the manufacturing sector, but you don't necessarily want to do shop floor things or engineering. Katie's a great example of you making a massive difference within a company if you work in a marketing department or any other department for that matter. So thanks for that, Katie. If you could stop sharing your screen now, that'd be great.
Yeah.
So guys, we are running a little bit late for today's session, but please stick around, because Joe's got some great tips and advice for you as well for Zoom etiquette and building trust via Zoom, and touching on mastering virtual presentations. So stick around, we'll listen to Joe, and then we'll have 10 to 15 minutes at the end for any questions to our panelists here today. So over to you, please, Joe.
Thanks, Jasmine. Yeah, my name's Joe. I'm the Digital Experience Executive at Maiden Group. If anyone doesn't know, Maiden Group's who's put on this whole show. So we're a membership group for manufacturers. So I work with hundreds of different manufacturers in the Midlands and in Yorkshire as well. And we do a lot of events and a lot of sort of marketing-based stuff as well. So for this section of today's event, we just wanted to look at some best practice for using like video calling software, similar to what we're using right now. However, this presentation is more concentrated on when it's used in a sort of a one-on-one or a smaller group capacity, and looking at how you can sort of use this medium in a natural and professional way, which is also effective in building trust, strengthening relationships, and making a good impression ultimately. So I'm just going to share my screen now. So yeah, the challenge of building trust virtually, and particularly over Zoom and things like that. So this is something which is obviously getting more and more important as time goes on. Obviously in the last year, and more employers are doing video interviews and virtual recruitment days and things like that. But I think this is something which it's not going to completely stop at all. It's going to keep going, and even before the pandemic, I had video interviews and things like that. So it is something that recruiters were looking at doing anyway, but obviously the last year has accelerated it a bit more. And then it's not only for job seekers this is important, but people already in roles or people who are expecting to get roles. Once you're in the role, more likely than not, you're going to be expected to be competent or be professional over virtual calling software like we're using now, as a minimum. And then so for some roles, obviously things like business development, or when you're getting meetings with people, building relationships, sales and things like that, definitely. This tool is not only sort of something you're expected to use just for comms with your own team, but it actually is going to be something that could be really important in how successful you are in the role. You know, there'll be people in things like business development who were really good, really thriving before they were introduced to having to use things like Zoom, and then suddenly it's a new way of working, and you're not necessarily going to translate over the same performance unless you do some of the things which I'm talking about today to make sure that you're giving off a good impression. So some of these things, I think they're obvious. You'd think they are, and everyone does these at some point. Like me, even me, definitely me. I do probably all of these things at some point, and it's just about being conscious of them and trying to minimize how often you're doing these things. And if you can get to the point where you're coming up against someone, whether you're a job seeker, you're doing interviews, and you're basically competing against other people, or whether you're in a role, or you're an employee and you're competing against other people who are trying to say sell a product or anything like that. If you can be the person who does these things the least, then you're going to be the person who comes across as the most professional in a really good way as well. So some of these are obvious, but like I said, it is easy to forget just through going to this new medium. Like in the physical world, you probably wouldn't need reminding of these things, but it's really easy to slip into forgetting about them. Obviously, dressing for the occasion, I won't touch on that too much, but if you're iffing and ahhing about, I'm doing a video interview on Zoom, do I really need to wear a shirt? I'd always err on the side of caution, because I'd be shocked if anyone ever looked down on you for dressing a little bit up, or being smart, or being the best dressed person. And then choosing a quiet area. You can't always control, like what's going on in the background, whether there's a dog barking or anything. You can't control that, but you can minimize the risk by choosing somewhere where that's least likely to happen, or saying to the people in your household, I'm going to be busy for a couple of hours. Can you just not disturb me? And then the same with testing your equipment. You can't necessarily control if the internet's just going to drop. Not to make you feel anxious, but it could drop at any second if you're on a certain service provider or whatever. But you can sort of do a little test run half an hour before and just make sure, is the internet working, or is my microphone working? Because it could be one of those 1 in 100 times where you need to reset your router, and if you've done that 5 minutes before the interview, then you're going to be really regretting you haven't done it sooner. And then obviously framing yourself correctly. I suddenly get really conscious of how I'm framed if I talk about this, but just making sure you're just basically, it's not an exact science, but just you're in the middle of the frame, you're decent distance away. But again, you've probably seen it yourself. We do a lot of events. We see it all the time of just people who, all good intentions, but they just don't really think about, they might have a really low angle, really high angle, and it is a bit like jarring to look at. So if you can just make sure you're doing all that right, and then staying seated and attentive. Again, we do loads of events, and everyone probably does it at some point, but it can be really easy to sort of slip into, I'll just check my emails or something in the background, and then it's probably quite noticeable. So especially if you're doing like a job interview or something like that, you'd never be on your phone in the midst of that. So try and leave the keyboard alone, stay attentive, make it obvious if you're engaged with what's going on. And then just little things, mute yourself when you're not speaking. You've probably heard that before. And then social etiquette, smiling and nodding. It seems crazy, but like, I'm saying that to you because in the physical world, you probably wouldn't need anyone reminding that. But just because of the nature of being behind a screen, I feel like, for me at least, and I feel like I see it quite a lot of other people, it's quite easy to slip into feeling quite like secure, and but you're like the watcher and you're behind a screen. You don't need to think about people potentially watching you all the time. So if you can be that one person who's actually obviously engaged, smiling, nodding when someone says something, showing that you're sort of actively listening, then you can stand out in a really good way if you're doing all those 7 things, as like crazy as that might sound. And then just an opinion at the top, but sort of I feel like it's not necessarily more difficult to build trust over a digital medium like this, virtual medium, but if you're doing the things that you would have done in the real world and just trying to replicate those exactly over Zoom, then it is going to be more difficult because you've got to do different things. And here are just a few things that are going to make it inherently more difficult. Not to use that as an excuse, but just you need to be conscious of these and do things to sort of offset that extended distance. The fact you're not in the same room as someone, obviously it's more difficult to sort of get established that familiarity of someone. So what are you going to do to sort of to make up for that? And then unclear body language with the framing, obviously. You've probably heard before that communication isn't just about speaking, but it's a load of different things. You know, it's body language, things going on like that with your facial expressions. And if any of that's unclear because you're framed in a way that you can't see yourself, and obviously you're not going to be able to communicate what you want to say or how you want to come across effectively. And then this last one is going to differ from person to person, but some people will feel a little bit uneasy with making a decision just based on meeting you through a screen. And then obviously at some point in the future, you could be doing virtual interviews where you're coming up against people who, for whatever reason, they can do it in going into an office. You might be far away from that place. You might have to do it virtually. So that could be like, you know, it could be coming up against something there. So what can you do to make them feel more sort of at ease and familiar? So just a little thing in terms of building familiarity beforehand. If you're a job seeker, Eliza was speaking about this, obviously a lot with LinkedIn, but just make sure like anything you send across before the meeting, your CV, etc., matches your LinkedIn profile. Because if, say, you've got a different job title on one to the other, or you've been at one, it says on your LinkedIn you're there for 2 years, it says on your CV it's there for 3 years, people are going to check that sort of thing. And if it's not, it might be a simple mistake on your side, but if someone sees that, they'll be thinking, well, you know, which one's true? Are they lying, or I don't know what's going on? And we actually had a speaker in one of the events, I think it was yesterday, saying that he when he's looking at CVs, he will just completely judge someone on if their LinkedIn profile's not up to scratch, then that could be it, you know. And it's when you're in a competitive job market, that could be it. And then from an employee perspective as well, it's important just if you send over any information about your company, that it matches anything they could go and find online. So anything they can find online, whether you're a job seeker, whether you're an employee working, make sure it matches what you've sent them before your meeting. And there's probably loads of different softwares out there. I've put Loom, not Zoom, Loom with an L, and it's basically just a way that you can record the screen and record yourself at the same time. And a really simple thing that can be really effective, whether you're a job seeker or like preparing for an interview, or whether you're someone who's about to have a virtual meeting with someone who's already working in the industry, you could send a video over to them. Obviously, it depends on sort of the relationship you've got with them, whether it's appropriate. Like if you had an email relationship before, it might be more something you want to do, or if you know, it's for a maybe more creative role, it could be appropriate as well. But if it is appropriate, it can be really effective to send a video before, just introducing yourself. So it's just a little screen recording of you saying, oh, hi, I'm Joe, give them a bit of information about yourself and you're looking forward to meeting them, etc. Just something short like that, because all you're doing there is getting them familiar with sort of yourself. And also, if you can make sure when you do that, it's framed in the exact same way that you'll be doing the meeting or the interview, then they'll get a real sense of familiarity about your surroundings and you as a person. And that sounds like, you know, you might not think that would work, but I think it does actually, that can be really powerful, making someone before you meet them, because you've not got the luxury of real life being able to build a relationship before, if you're just doing one-off virtual meeting. So just being able to do that can go a long way. And we've already spoke about it a bit, but just being really mindful of the limitations of this box we're in, if you're trying to do any body language type stuff as well to get your message across. And then this eye contact one. So I always make fun speaking about this, because I think you would have heard before, like eye contact can be quite important to communicate with someone when you're speaking in physical real world, that you're interested, you're engaged, can give a confidence as well. And obviously, like we've just lost that completely, haven't we, on Zoom pretty much. Because if you're looking at someone's eyes on the screen, obviously it doesn't look like that to them. They don't know where you're looking. And it would be strange if you looked at the camera the whole time, but it can just be a tool to use occasionally. So say if you just want to look at your actual camera, which will give across something similar to eye contact, say to emphasize your point at the end of a sentence, or just to give a cue that you're finished, or something like that. It can be effective just as a tool. I wouldn't recommend looking at the camera the whole time when you're speaking, because it might be a bit weird, but just as a tool to have, I'd recommend that. And then, yeah, accentuating social cues, like we spoke about, just little things that you'll just forget to do it because you're on this software. It's so easy to do, but just like things you would do in the normal world without thinking, like leaning towards the camera a bit when you're speaking, or signaling that you want to speak, or you know, when you're listening, just sitting back and sort of showing that you're actively engaged, things like that. And then most importantly, if you're going to take away one thing from this whole presentation to this point, just don't forget where you are and what you're doing, because you might be just in your bedroom or in the lounge or wherever. You might have tracksuit bottoms on, but you're still, at the end of the day, you're doing something like a job interview. You want the same result as if you're doing it in the physical world. So just don't. It's so easy to slip into the habit of just forgetting where you are and just start checking your phone because you feel like no one can see and stuff like that. And if you can be the one person who just doesn't forget where they are just for that half an hour, however long, then you'll stand out in a really positive way, I think. So yeah, that's pretty much it with the Zoom stuff. But just one thing you can do today, just to sort of end up this whole digital competencies presentation. And this is something that I think will sort of really affect and boost in your own skill set. But also it could give you a really, really good result as well at the end of it. So if you're here, if you're listening to this at the exhibition, I'm sure you've got a goal. Probably got a career related goal. I don't know what that is. It could be you want. There's also someone in a chat saying about, well, how do you get work experience? How do you get key work experience? That sort of thing. That could be a goal. It might be that you're actively looking for a role for right now. You might have already had positions before and you've been in the industry for a few years. You might be someone who just wanted to find out just what apprenticeships are out there, just pursuing, like seeing what options are there before you make a decision. You might be looking for a job in a year's time, or it might be a graduate who's graduating in the end of this summer or next year. Whatever your goal is, pinpoint that. And then secondly, just create a short inquiry message, just like a draft, just introducing yourself, just a few sentences, introduce yourself, indicate what you're looking for, and just inquire about any opportunities. And then from there, what I'd do is just, again, I don't know what your goal is, so it's difficult for me to say an exact number because it could be something really niche, like a specific job role or sector. But for most people listening, you'll be able to, I'm sure, message at least 5 companies on the exhibition hall. I've been and seen all of the exhibitor stands. There's some really amazing companies, amazing opportunities there, and people who are just really friendly, really nice, and would just love to speak with you just for a chat. And worst case, you're boosting your skill set a little bit. Most likely case, you get something from it, whether it's some information to take away, whether it's just the start of a relationship where someone says, yeah, I'll keep your details on file for something in the future. But it's also very possible that you could get set on the way to achieving what that goal is. But you've got to be proactive. You've got to do something about it. They're not going to come to you. So you've got to go out there and, choose 5, send that message. And if you want to really stand out, just put one sentence about that company, which you couldn't have copy and pasted. If you want to really stand out, just something like, I like this bit of your stand, I like this recent article you've done, something as simple as that. And it will just indicate that you've not just done a copy and paste across them all, if you can do that. So yeah, that's all from me. Thanks for listening, and I'll hand back to Yasmin now.
Yeah, Joe, you can leave that on the screen just for the delegates.
Okay.
So they can have another look at that. And if you don't mind, if you could pop it into the chat just whilst we wrap up now.
Yeah.
I think some of the things that Joe said today, you can apply throughout all of this week at our Meet Britain's Makers events. Obviously, with the webinars, it's a little different as you're not on camera, but I think even when Joe was talking then, I automatically did the things that he was suggesting, sitting up straight and
Yeah.
nodding, because it's really important, especially in the times that we're in now where we can't meet physically and we are using a lot more video conferencing. We still need to be able to build rapport and network and build relationships with people in order to discover the opportunities that you guys are experiencing this week at the Made Futures exhibition. So thank you so much for that, Joe. That was really, really good. And like I said, if you could pop it in the chat, that would be good. And then all of you guys can take those that little task away with you now, and and apply the things that Joe was talking about today at your at the Meet Britain's Makers events as well, and the things that Katie and Eliza were saying too to your socials. Apply that and see where it can take you. These guys are all very experienced people, and their advice would be very valuable to you. So apply that and see where it takes you. So we have run over the event at 10 minutes, so apologies for that, guys, but hopefully you did benefit from today's event. I know I especially did from some of the suggestions that were made by all of our panelists today, so thank you guys for all being part of it and sharing your expertise. One last thing I'd like to mention again is make sure you're looking around stands at the virtual exhibition. Do the things that Joe suggested here today, so chat with people on the live chat, build that rapport, build relationships with key figures in the industry, and in addition to that, have a hunt for the golden banner and win that bottle of wine, non-alcoholic version, of course available, or the Moleskine Smart Book. All you need to do is find the golden banner, post it on socials with hashtag #MadeFutures or hashtag 1K Jobs Challenge, and you could be the winner for today's bottle of wine or Moleskine Smart Book. So I won't keep you any longer. However, we do have an event later today at 2:30, Meet Britain's Makers for the Black Country, Staffordshire and Shropshire. So if you're in that local area, make sure you join that as well. But otherwise, I'd like to thank all of our panelists here today, our manufacturing members who would be attendees to today's event, and the job seekers that have joined us as well. So thanks very much for joining us. Bye-bye.
Thank you.